Today I'm talking to Katya. Katya is an avid traveler and a millennial. Katya, thanks for joining me today. Can you introduce yourself and share a bit about your travel background and what makes you what we consider a connected traveler?
Absolutely, Julie, with pleasure. And thanks for having me. So, my name is Katja Weiner. I've been an avid traveler for a few decades, visiting more than 30 countries, I'd say, and even living in some of them along the way. So, I settled in London in UK, one of the most, international cities in the world, with lots of travel, where I'm now residing with my husband. So I started traveling very early on, sometimes even on my own. So I'm going to take you a little bit back to my childhood. I'm going to travel there very quickly. But if you can imagine me at the tender age of 6, little me, little luggage, looking like, Paddington Bear, traveling by myself. So it's a
Wow.
funny little image, but you can imagine, me starting to travel already at that age. And that's due to my background. So I was born in Moscow, Russia, but I grew up in Switzerland, in an international boarding school. So the boarding school meant that I was traveling back and forth quite a lot. And the international part meant that, I was exposed to many different cultures and, I met people from all over the world. And this allowed me to, now that when I travel and, I can reach out to friends who are locals and they can show me around. But having said that, obviously I can reach out to my local friends, but I'm still a millennial. So I do leverage the technology to enhance my travel experience. Every aspect of my travel experience, from booking flights, accommodations, navigating new cities, and obviously by the end of the trip, sharing my adventures on social media. So I constantly stay connected. So yeah, and this is this digital integration is what makes me, as you would call, a connected traveler, because obviously I
Mhm.
rely on, real-time information, seamless communication, and well, pretty much instant access to travel resources. Everything is instant these days.
Mhm. That's exciting that you've been traveling since you were 6 years old. I think I was much older than that when I took my first trip solo. But really interesting because you've seen how technology has evolved in the travel space for many, many years. And
Mm,
where we are today is, in terms of technology and being able to connect while you're traveling, is so, so far advanced than it was even a couple years ago, which is amazing. And so you've been
absolutely.
able to experience that throughout all of your travels. With that in mind, I think travel experience has also evolved and the expectations that we have of our travel experiences. So, for example, you land in a new country, you want to be able to be on your phone right away. By the time you're off the plane,
Absolutely.
you want to be connected. And that helps shape your experience. Um, as you're booking travel and as you're going through travel experiences, what is it that makes your experience stand out from others when it comes to technology?
No, so you're absolutely right. And actually, I would also add, it's, the being connected is the first thing you do when you land somewhere. Is you're looking for Wi-Fi. You're obsessively looking, um, right? And we recently actually had a holiday in Sardinia, and we landed. There was no Wi-Fi. I thought that's fine. I'm on holiday. We'll get to the hotel. Really bad Wi-Fi in the hotel, and I just, as a millennial, for me it was panic. And I thought, well, how am I going to Google? How am I going to do research about the market that we wanted to go to? So I panicked. I tried to connect to Wi-Fi, it didn't work. Anyways, I'm a millennial, so that was my way of researching. My husband just went down to reception, spoke to the concierge because he's, a different he's a Gen X, so he has a very different way of solving this
Mhm.
problem. But yeah,
Mhm.
when I travel, I do tend to kind of look for travel experiences that offer a blend of not just obviously the technology, but its personalization, its authenticity. But yeah, obviously the seamless kind of integration of technology is super important, because I need, real-time updates, and also support through a reliable platform, whatever that may be, being able to kind of message, go into the chat support, customer support chat, and yeah, for me to be able to have like a smooth and enjoyable experience.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, are you able to share any stories of memorable travel experiences and what exactly made them so memorable?
Sure. So, actually, my husband and I recently visited Japan. Somewhere I've always wanted to go because it's a completely different world to mine. And for me,
Mm.
it's this mysterious faraway land. And I have to say, I was not proven wrong about the mysterious part because barely anyone speaks English. So you're kind of left to your own devices. And no pun intended, but we did use our devices a lot, like a lot, starting from really starting from Google Translate, which was actually my first time using Google Translate as an app that, I would just take my phone out and scan texts, or I would type in something in English to be able to communicate with the taxi driver. So that was really,
Right.
really helpful because otherwise we would have been completely lost. And we also used
Mhm.
Wolfpack to get around. So, that helped us kind of navigate a very difficult place because, as I said, it's a different world. Actually, I need to mention, but my husband wrote a very interesting and I would say highly entertaining post about this on LinkedIn. Some might call it entertaining. I think my in-laws might call it a bit troubling, but you can read about it and be the judge
Uh,
of that. But yeah, so having a sophisticated app, so we used Wolfpack, and having a sophisticated app like that provides route planning, and obviously Google Translate provided us with the real-time translation, and also kind of having all of that on my phone. It makes a difference between a ruined holiday and a well-planned
mhm.
adventure. And that's what we had. We had an adventure because we were able to have a hassle-free journey, and we were focusing on exploring the place we were in, rather than stressing out about you know where we're going next. So it was all kind of done.
Right. Yeah. So, had you planned the trip without an app like Wolfpack, you would be trying your best, of course, to figure out, okay, what makes sense? Where do we go first? And where do we go after that? And, but there's some information that you just don't have because
Yeah,
you don't know that country. So,
absolutely.
we're so lucky. We're so lucky to have apps like, then technology like Wolfpack, where it can take out so much of the stress or prevent us from maybe, we do our own planning and we're so confident in our plan and we get there and we discover that, there was a road closure or like there's, for some reason, you can't take that route that you mapped out. And then you are set back and you've only got so much time. You've already spent a lot of money to get there. So there's nothing more disappointing than having that happen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it sounds like being able to use technology like Wolfpack to plan your experience ahead of time is one of the things that made that trip so memorable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It makes it, hassle free, and you're
Mhm.
just able to explore the city, which is, what you wanted to do in the first place.
Definitely. And from what I read in the article, you avoided some disputes that might have come up and your marriage is in a better place.
Definitely. Definitely. As my husband said, Wolfpack saved our marriage, but that's not what it's there for.
No, no, that's
It's
just one of the
no,
perks.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, you got to experience it. It sounded like it was a great trip, and hopefully you two are closer together because of the great
Absolutely.
experience. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Travel does that. It broadens the mind. You're immersed in different cultures, and you have these amazing experiences, and of course it brings you together. So when technology works well and it's there to help you 100%, you have a much more powerful and more valuable experience.
Yeah, with the people you're with, right? And that's what it's all about
Absolutely.
is creating those memorable experiences
Yeah,
at the end of the day. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to shift to the negative, but I think we do need to go there.
Sure.
Have there been any trips that you've gone on that have been poor experiences? specifically where technology broke down for you or there was unnecessary stress that might have been avoided. It makes me think of your first example about not being able to get the Wi-Fi as soon as you landed in your destination. But do you have any other examples where things didn't really go as planned?
Do you know what? I have to say, I've been quite lucky. I've never really had an issue, but I think it's also very much because I do plan in advance. Like, I never get to a city without having done a bit of research. Maybe also because I'm a millennial, I kind of have to know everything. I have all this knowledge on the internet available to me that I have to like kind of digest it before I get on the plane or the train or whatever. So I do kind of plan in advance. So, in the comfort of your own home, if anything does go wrong with technology, I would message someone like in the chat or, customer services and get it sorted right away. But yeah, as a millennial, I
Mm-hmm.
have unfortunately, embarrassingly, is that's true, but I have very little patience when things don't go right with technology. So thank God I've never had a bad
Mm-hmm.
experience. But yeah, as I said, we do plan things in advance.
Yeah. Well, that leads me into your planning process. So you did say that you're somebody who likes to plan ahead of time, and have your itinerary mapped out to the best of your knowledge and abilities. How do you usually find your travel experiences when you're in that research and dreaming and planning stage?
Right. I just, go to my travel manager, aka my husband. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's very much a team effort. He is in the travel industry, so he does know certain things that I don't. But as a millennial, again, I typically start with my best friend Google. So that's kind of my first
Hmm.
online research. It just happens through Google, just looking into like what to do and then put the city in. And then obviously move on to Instagram, which is where I find
Right.
videos, photos of beautiful places that I'd love to experience. So also, obviously on Instagram, there's influencers, and also there are travel blogs actually. So both of these, they play a significant role in shaping my choices, which might not be necessarily the first thing that my husband would do. But yeah, so I look for travel experiences that have strong digital engagement, because obviously this is how I interact with the world as a millennial.
Hmm.
And therefore, that's my
Hmm.
trusted source. I will go to Instagram and see what are people saying, what are the videos that they're taking, So these platforms, they make it easier to browse, to compare, the different, so if there's like travel blogs, you can obviously compare, and other platforms where you can book stuff, that's a major factor in my decision making process because I don't want to go on 30 different websites. Again, this is the
Hmm.
impatient millennial in me. Like, just give me one website. I want to book it all, or it's not book or
Yeah.
research it all in one place. I just want one place. Like, streamline it for me.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
my kind of request.
Yeah, I don't know that in terms of travel or my experience with planning travel, I don't know that we're fully there yet, but I agree with you. I would love like a one-stop shop for me to do
Amazing.
everything. I find that you end up with like a million tabs open on your web browser for
Yes,
different airlines and for different group experiences and so many different things and all the attractions,
yeah,
and it almost gets overwhelming at a certain point. So,
absolutely.
I mean, that's the dream is to have like a one-stop shop where you can do everything from for the entire journey from like the dreaming stage all the way to like the point where you're actually on your own Instagram and you're leaving a review of a venue of an attraction that you visited and you're providing that feedback to the actual travel supplier as well. So maybe someday I think the industry is going there, but I think there's still a lot
Yes,
of work to be done. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, the travel industry really needs to listen to, not specifically to millennials, but like to millennials and the next generations as to what
Hmm.
features and tools we use and we dislike, we don't use, and for what reasons. It's like any, I
Right.
guess, marketing strategy when you're looking at the profile of your customer. Where do they shop, how do they shop, what's their lifestyle, What are they thinking? And it's clear to me that we're definitely, so as I said, obviously, again, impatient and an impatient lot. We like everything to be instant, and as you said, having the million tabs just doesn't work for us because it's in lots of different places. We just want it to be all in one place. So it's like it's integrated apps. That's what it is, right? So integrated
Yeah.
apps with real-time updates, detailed itineraries, interactive maps. The translation bit is brilliant. So
Oh
tools
yeah.
for language
Mhm.
translation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Obviously, we're living in an AI world, so some sort of chat GPT integration. And also, one thing that I started seeing pop up a lot, but don't see it everywhere, is the social feature, to connect
Sure.
with fellow travelers, but it's also to see
Mhm.
reviews. That would be
Mhm.
that would be fantastic to be able to go on a website and to just see other people, other travelers' reviews. What went well, what didn't go well, and not necessarily just with the travel aspect of it, but like the actual location, what they liked about it. Somebody saying, "Oh, it was too touristy. We didn't like it, so we went elsewhere." And this is where I think millennials kind of get their information when they're traveling.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Like we really rely on other people's experiences and almost trust their experiences and what they're sharing more than what the actual supplier is saying in their marketing and all of their messaging, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where the influencers are really really helpful in actually saying, okay, here's the true experience. I've seen so many of these, and you've probably seen them too, where people are going to these major attractions, very popular attractions, and the reality is very different from what they've been
Yeah.
sold. So you look
Oh
at this
yeah.
beautiful attraction, you think you're going to be able to stand in this room and admire the beautiful ceiling with all of the art on it, and then the reality is that you're packed into a room with like 1,000 people and it's hot and you just want to get out of
It's true.
there.
It's true.
What's the true
We've all been
experience,
there.
right? Yeah. For
Absolutely.
sure. We talked a little bit about technology features and tools that we wish more travel platforms would offer. One thing we've noticed at Wolfpack is that there's a bit of a gap in between the point where you book and then the post travel experience, so that there are specifically group tour operators that are not really focused on the experience itself, and
Hmm.
that there's a significant opportunity to improve that part of the journey. And honestly, that is the most important part of the journey, right? Like
Absolutely.
booking is pretty easy, but it's the experience that is really what people are going for. And there's not been a lot of focus on actually delivering in the experience part, which is where Wolfpack is trying to come in and help move tour operators in the right direction and really help improve the experiences that the tour participants have, knowing that the generations that are traveling now, a large segment of the market is millennial and very connected travelers. So just curious to know, have you ever used a tour experience management solution? I think you mentioned that you had used Wolfpack. Just wanted to get some more thoughts on how that worked for you.
Yes, we used Wolfpack on our trip to Japan, and it really helped us map out the day because once you're kind of out of your hotel room and nobody speaks English, you really feel quite kind of insecure about your next steps. So what we
Mm-hmm.
did is, so I'm in events, so I'm quite organized and I like to plan things in advance. So what we did was map out a whole journey. But actually, to go back a few steps, what originally I did was I went on Google Maps and created the different locations we wanted to see. And I thought, okay, so these three locations or sites are all in one place. So let me create one day when we're just doing those sites. So then I went into Wolfpack and kind of put these locations and saw how the itinerary looked. And what's amazing, I really love that look, the function in Wolfpack where you can print it, which as a millennial, we
Mm.
don't print stuff usually. But here I
Yeah.
was like, huh, this is actually where printing is going to come in very handy. We had like a
Right.
three pager, PDF of, all the stops that we had to do, where to get off, which subway to take, and if we ever got lost, you know, I could show it to somebody and say, "This is where we're going. Can you help us?" So it was really helpful to have
Oh,
an
yeah.
itinerary for the whole
Mhm.
day that was just planned. I just felt like we were in control as opposed to going out and then getting lost and not really, knowing what was the next step. We had it all printed.
Mhm.
It was there. If we wanted to change anything, that's a different story. But if it was there, because we didn't have internet in most places, that it was there. It was all in those three pages, and we were able to just use those directions the whole day, and it made our life so much easier.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
by the way, and the other
That's a good
thing also that, oh, sorry, I
Yeah, I
think
was going
there's
to say
that,
that's a good point. That's a good point that you make about having the printout. Now we're talking about being
yeah,
connected, um, but also when you're in a country that doesn't speak English, having that printout is probably a really good idea, just as a
yeah,
backup, right? Or say
absolutely,
your phone battery
absolutely,
dies. What if your phones die, or for some reason there's an issue with internet access or something like that? As much as we want to be connected, that seems like a really good opportunity to have actual piece of paper. And it's funny that you
yeah.
mentioned you don't print anymore. The only thing I print is Amazon return labels.
It's so true. It's true. So that's why when I saw the print function, I was like, oh, that's actually really clever. I'm gonna print this.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's not the only function we use. We also use the AI function, which I think is absolutely brilliant because you just type in kind of what you want to do, and it just creates a whole itinerary for you. It's absolutely
Mhm.
brilliant. And of course, I
Yeah.
already had a few ideas of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But again, because I'm a millennial, I don't trust just one source. I need to have all the different sources. So I check Instagram, I check Google, and then I put stuff into the AI integration in Wolfpack, and it gave me some other options that I didn't find on my own, and that was really really
Mhm.
amazing. And I think that's also what brought a lot of value to our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see how that could definitely be valuable to somebody who is planning a group tour as a tour operator. Say their client has an idea of what they want to do, but maybe the tour operator needs more recommendations. I think that's where the AI is very powerful.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, speaking of
Hmm.
tour operators, so we're going next week to Istanbul. And we're going to go on a few tours. Not decided yet what tours we're going to, but it is really helpful that we're basically given an itinerary, um, of the places that will be visited. But I thought, what a
Hmm.
shame they don't have Wolfpack. Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I thought, okay, so there's like a list of things that we're going to visit. And I thought that's great, but I'm not sure I want to do X, Y, and Z, like the first few items on the list. I wish they were using Wolfpack so I could say to them, do you know what? I will join you when you are at, the bazaar or whatever it is. And with
Hmm.
Wolfpack, I would be able to do that because obviously I'd know when they're going to be there with, like with the
Right.
tracking.
Mhm.
And that's really
Yes.
important to me because I don't want to miss out on any of the sites that they'll be visiting, but I also don't want to go
Mhm.
to the sites that I don't want to see just for the sake of being part of the tour,
Right.
like part of the group.
Right. Hmm.
So we'll see. Maybe I'll send them a message and they'll have Wolfpack by the time we get there.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah. And even if they don't, you can definitely suggest it at the end of the tour and
Absolutely.
say, like, hey, one way this could be even better was if you had this Wolfpack solution. I totally hear you, and that you don't, if they were not using Wolfpack to have all of the tour participants understand it, know where the tour is at any given time, you could say, it could say on your itinerary, oh, 10 o'clock a.m., we're going to be at this bazaar. And in reality it's 12 p.m., but you're going
Yeah.
there at 10 p.m., 10 a.m., and you're waiting for 2 hours, and you're like,
Yeah.
I could spend this 2 hours doing so many other things. So
Shopping.
totally. Yeah, exactly. So much
And you don't want to do
opportunity.
that in the heat. That's the other thing. you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your
Yeah, for sure.
time is valuable, and you're going away for a few days. You really want to maximize your time there. And this is why, if technology is able to help you maximize your um, holiday or whatever the trip is, business trip, then amazing. You know,
Mhm.
Absolutely, you should use it, but it needs to have all the integration.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really curious to see how your tours pan out. So maybe we'll reconnect after
With
that.
pleasure.
um, yeah, for sure. So, a couple of final questions for you. What trends do you see shaping the future of group tours, especially for millennial or Gen Z travelers?
Um, well, I see a strong trend towards more personalized and tech-driven experiences. Obviously, tech-driven we've spoken about quite a lot today. The personalized bit, I think because we value flexibility, authenticity. So I'm going to Istanbul. I want to see the bazaar. I really want to not maybe feel like a local, but at least be immersed into the local culture. So definitely the
Mhm.
personalized bit is quite important. And also sustainability. So there's this the three things, yeah, flexibility, authenticity, and sustainability. So I think if tours incorporated advanced technology, you know, I mean, there's lots of things like virtual reality previews, which could be amazing because you can
Mm,
have a little feel of what you're going to be experiencing before you go. AI
right.
driven personalization, obviously, as we mentioned already, the integration of Wolfpack. And yeah, and eco-friendly practices. I think those things will definitely attract this very demanding and impatient
Yeah.
demographic.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shift because the preferences and expectations are different, and like you mentioned, were a lot more demanding than
Mm,
previous generations of travelers. So the industry really does need to keep up and figure out how they can meet the expectations of this large segment of connected travelers. On that note,
absolutely.
do you have like one piece of advice you could offer tour operators who are looking to attract the connected traveler today?
I mean, I guess definitely embrace at least the two of the things that I've mentioned, if not the three. The technology, obviously, the advanced, high quality, and work really well kind of designed technology, and definitely prioritize personalization, because we do we do seek a unique and authentic experience because we're constantly bombarded by videos and photos on Instagram and social media in general. It's kind of like we've seen it all, even if we've not personally
Right.
experienced it. So you really need to wow
Hmm.
us with personalization, if that makes sense. And for the
Yeah.
technology bit, providing a seamless digital experience from booking to even like post tour or post trip, like follow up, and allowing, customizable itineraries without being really strict about this is the package you're getting and that's it. That's not going to work with millennials.
Hmm.
I think that would go a long way in capturing this market because we do need flexibility. We really, really do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you touched on the uniqueness, and I think that's so true. We all have different preferences and expectations, and um, having a unique experience, like you said, is so important because we've already seen it all, right? You can
Yeah,
Google any attraction that you
literally.
want. You can literally see it, right? So when we're actually there, we're really expecting to be wowed. And so
Yeah,
the tour operators and travel suppliers really need to keep that in mind as they're trying to meet the expectations of the connected traveler
absolutely.
market. Well, thank you so much, Katya. That was really fun, and you shared a lot of great insights today. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Honestly, this was really amazing kind of going through all the travel experiences. I love traveling, so obviously talking about it is just a pleasure, really.